What's going on, everybody? This is Nick Costco with On3 Sports. I have a very special guest today, Maryland head coach Alex Clemson, who has overseen a big turnaround for the wrestling program for the Terrapins here in 2022 and 2023. Coach, appreciate you joining me today. I have a couple questions for you, obviously leading up to the Big Ten tournament this weekend. But first, I got to start out. This was mostly a season of turnarounds here for you and your program. Fourth season at the helm for you, but you guys are 10-9 in the dual season. Received a lot of national recognition for what you guys have been able to do as a program to turn things around. A lot of young studs coming up. And just how do you sum up the regular season this year for Maryland wrestling?
Well, it was a good year of growth. It was a big step forward again for our program. I think when we got to College Park, we knew that there was a lot of work that needed to be done. And I think that's something that excited myself and our staff, and I think it excited the young kids that we recruited and that are in the lineup right now. Everybody's like kind of hungry to make a mark and make a name and forge a new path, and we're starting to really kind of see the fruits of some of that labor. It was a long 3 years to get here, and the interesting thing is I don't think anybody feels great about it. I think we all think we left a couple on the board here and there, and we recognize that our league is the best sports league in college athletics, regardless of sport, and that's part of what attracts us as well, right? We don't do it because it's easy; we do it because it's hard. So, as good as a regular season as it was, I think we know that we need to finish strong here these last 2 weekends, and then also. Next year, we need to take another step or two, and hopefully 3 forward as we continue our build in College Park. And the work just doesn't stop. It never ends. And we have really high goals. So it's funny. A lot of people have asked, "Oh, how do you feel?" and everything. I'm like, meh. I didn't sign up to be a top 25 team or a team that gets a lot of recognition. We signed up to win, plain and simple. And we've got more work to do.
For sure. So it's funny because I've covered Big Ten wrestling for almost 10 years now. And the way I look at it is, there's so much emphasis on those final 3 days in March, and what you guys have built should not be overlooked as a dual team as well going into the Big Ten tournament. But how do you balance that, knowing that this was the turnaround year as a team for you guys, but now the shift, it just focuses now to, all right, now it's an individual season. We want as many guys to get to NCAAs. We want as many guys on the podium as possible. How do you change that mentality up a little bit?
Well, I think we saw that we sacrificed a couple dual meets this year in order to get guys not just healthy but fully healthy. We sat a couple kids here and there when we needed to, and we probably sat a guy a touch longer than we needed to just to make sure that we were in position to have as good a weekend as we could beginning of March and then again at the end of March. And we've talked to our kids all year about being selfish at the end of the year, that we have a good group of kids that wrestle for each other and train for each other and live for each other. And they do a great job of creating the right atmosphere, creating the right environment, of being selfless, of giving each other the right looks. Whatever we've asked our kids to do, they've done. Now it's time, these last couple of weekends here, it's you're a lone wolf. You're an assassin. Your whole job is to survive and advance and to get in deep in these 2 tournaments as possible, because that's how our team really does well. And it's a big shift from a dual meet. And there's still momentum. It's still a team thing. I think there's still energy that's felt, but at the same time, you really need to take care of you. And our staff will do everything they can to help our kids do that. Whether it's getting another scout on an opponent, or making sure they've got the right meal, or that their warm up is done at the precise time, and there's a lot that goes into it, and that you manage differently from an individual standpoint than you do a team standpoint with a dual meet. And so just reminding our kids that whatever they need, and that they just need to ask, and they need to be vocal, and they got to speak up, and we'll keep reminding them of that, and we'll keep checking in on them, and hopefully this young group is excited and ready to go for this postseason because they're extremely talented and they're capable of wrestling, I think, really deep into both Big Ten and NCAA tournaments.
It's interesting you mentioned the young guys on the team. I'm looking at number 15, Braxton Brown. He's only a freshman. Obviously, Ethan Miller's a freshman. Jackson Smith is a freshman as well. Three of your four-ranked guys within the top 33 of each weight class. I mean, three of them are freshmen. Of course, you have Jaron Smith, the big heavyweight, is at number 24 in heavyweight for you guys. But it's amazing that everyone thought about Maryland. Okay, yeah, there's one or two guys that are going to be studs. I mean, usually it's the upper weight guys, but this year you guys are kind of building something out now from top to bottom. And as I mentioned before, the three of those four ranked guys right now are just freshmen. So what is that a testament to for your program as you guys have been able to develop from year to year and now looking ahead to the future?
Well, I think those three guys obviously have really set the bar extremely high and have kind of flown the flag for us all year. And Jaron, the stalwart, right? It's really cool having him as the closer. But there's a couple other guys too that have been in and out of the rankings, right? Cal Miller is a true
Mhm.
freshman, Ethan's little brother, and then Michael North has 2 seasons left with COVID, and Dom Solis, our captain, actually
Mhm.
has 3 seasons left, two to compete and one to redshirt. So we only lose one guy out of our starting lineup, besides the guys that have been in and out of the rankings. So we're still young at 84. We're still really young at 65. John Martin Best is only a redshirt freshman coming off the ACL surgery. So I think we've got a good core. We've got a lot of youth to continue to build and work with. I don't know how many times we looked at lineups of other people and we were like, man, these guys lose 6 seniors. These guys lose 5 seniors. Um, those teams will reload just the way we did with our young talent. But at least it'll be a little more of a level playing field. I think you referenced Braxton Brown and Jackson Smith. I think in front of Braxton Brown, there's 6 sixth-year guys in the rankings, and in front of Jackson Smith, there's 7 sixth-year guys. Um, eh, Man, that's tough for I think a freshman to have that many fifth-year guys in front of them, let alone sixth year. So um, I think our team, we didn't build it with the transfer portal. We went out and recruited guys that we thought fit our system. We thought fit our style, fit our personas, and had a passion to do what we're doing with a build. And we're seeing that kind of come together, and it's exciting. And it's hard not to continually kind of look forward and to just enjoy the moment. But I know even more is kind of on the horizon for us because of how young we are.
Now, coming over from Missouri before you came over to Maryland as the head coach, you obviously had a lot of experience coaching guys, All Americans, national champions. You're a former All American yourself from Edinboro. So, I mean, do you talk to your guys about that, about your past experiences as a coach and as a wrestler to maybe set a blueprint for them? Or do you kind of just let it take shape with your staff and see what these guys are feeling now these days?
Yeah, I mean, you're always telling stories, right? You try to paint a picture. You try to give reference points. You try to draw on some experiences, not just from yourself, but athletes you've coached, teammates that you had, um, different people that you've known in the sport, and times that you can kind of relate to. Um, it's good for kids to understand they're not the first ones doing it. That other people have done similar things, or other people have achieved things that you're trying to do. So sometimes I think, especially when you're young, it can seem like daunting, or it can seem like very like big. And so we try to just normalize it. It's like, hey man, I had a teammate, Gregor Gillespie, true freshman All American. I think he won his first 17 matches in a row, 15 of them by tech fall. So young kids have won in this sport, for a long time. And why can't this young group? And we've told stories where, guys have gotten injured and they've come back late and wrestled well. And we've told stories where, kids have come back for extra medical years and done well. And we've told stories about groups going into hostile environments and winning big dual meets, or, whatever it is. I think our staff has a unique collection to talk about, building a program. I was part of that at Edinboro. Nick was part of that at Virginia Tech as an athlete. Devin had a lot of success as an athlete at Missouri.
Mm.
And then, Elijah wrestled in the Big Ten. So we've got a great collection to just draw on from, athletic experiences. But then, I've been in the game a little longer than those guys as a coach and had a couple stops. And so I can lean on some of those experiences too. So we're always kind of referencing past experiences, whether it's, personal or from a coaching perspective or even from a friend perspective. And it's cool to tell those stories. And it's cool when our kids get to meet those guys. Coach Brissett has referenced a couple guys from his time at Tech, and a couple of those guys have stopped by the room or have been on the road and got to meet our kids and then ask questions. And same thing with my time coaching and some of the guys that I coached at Missouri. Then we're at the Tiger Style Invite and popped over, and it's cool to kind of for our kids to see, oh, that's a real guy. He looks like the average Joe now, and it's sometimes that's the way it works, right? So we do a lot of storytelling.
Couple more for you, Coach. Head coach Alex Clemson with me for On3 Sports. Coach, so I'm looking at the way Maryland kind of operates athletically. Obviously football and basketball are pretty much in all the Power 5 schools. Those are the big sports. Everyone looks at those two sports and say, all right, that's how the school is succeeding or not succeeding. It's based on their football and basketball programs. Maryland, you could add in those two plus lacrosse, obviously a dominant lacrosse program. You guys, again, have flown under the radar on this steady rebuild over your 4 years. Do you think you guys have kind of been on par with those three programs, and are you kind of just more so enjoying the, we're still the underdog, we're still not in the spotlight yet, but we're building towards something like that?
I mean, I think some of the success we had this year, they put us kind of in some of the national media spotlight, right? We knocked off Pittsburgh and a good win early, and that kind of gave people like, oh wow, Maryland's coming, and then down at Virginia Duels, knocking off Oklahoma, one of the most storied programs in our sports history, and then following that up with a Big Ten win against Purdue, and we left one on the table against Indiana. Credit to those guys, they got a tie victory there on criteria. I would have liked to seen that one go a little bit different, but I think it's funny. You mentioned the basketballs and football, right? I think every sport or every school, that's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Our women's basketball program is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, lacrosse is our women's field hockey. Missy Maharg's probably the greatest field hockey coach in NCAA history. Then you add in, men's soccer with what Sasha Oshirogasi's done at Maryland. Rob Vaughn is kind of doing what we're trying to do, but he's 6-7 years ahead, right? He's been in College Park not much longer than we have, so it's a fun athletic department to be a part of. So many championship culture teams and coaches, and then seeing Rob especially do what he's doing right now, just again 5, 6, 7 years ahead of us. And then Megan Nemser on the women's soccer side, she got hired last year, so she's 3 years behind us. It's just there's a lot of good stuff going on, and that's a credit to our administration, and Damon Evans and his leadership since he's been in College Park and the great hires he's made. I mean, our football team, right, was in a weird position when Locks got hired, and I'm not sure a better person could have been hired for that job. He's the hometown guy. He loves Maryland, right? He is Maryland. And then the basketball hire, everybody's always got an opinion on those two sports. Everybody wants to play
yeah,
armchair quarterback or armchair AD, and so to watch Willard's success and those kids' success on the court this year has been awesome, and it's been really fun to watch Damon enjoy that too. I think he's tweeted out a couple of times, everybody enjoying the Willard era yet, and so that's really cool to see, and I think everybody in College Park is super competitive, and you sit around that head coach's table and at meetings, and and led by Mr. Evans, and then some of his support staff, like our sports supervisor Mark Sherburne. He played for 2 national championships for Joe Pa and pitched at Penn State. Was a part of a national championship team. There's a lot of people in that room that have won at a really high level and been a part of athletics and still are winning at championship level. So it's a cool athletics program to be a part of. It's cool to say that I'm a head coach at the University of Maryland. It's a great group of people to be around every day. It's something that definitely motivates you. You don't want to be the odd man out, right? All those people that I've referenced have pretty much won national championships as head coaches, and I think Locks was a part of two at Alabama as a coordinator and an analyst, and then was in another championship game. So I think I'm like one of the only people that doesn't have a national championship as part of my background at some point. So we got to fix that. But it's I don't know if we think about it that way, but I do think like-minded people are attracted, and I think like-minded kids are attracted, and success begets success. And so it's no surprise to see Maryland athletics as a whole winning at a really high level, or programs turning it around and starting to build and gain momentum. Um, Not surprised at all about that, and it's fun to be a part of, and I'm thankful for that. And I know that because of that, we're going to have championship resources, and we're going to have investment from our administration that allows us to continue to raise the bar. And they'll continue to invest in our program because they want to win at everything, right? It's not some schools you look at it like, oh yeah, their football team's really good, and their men's basketball team's really
Right.
good, or maybe one or two sports are really good. We've got like 10 that are really good. So Damon wants to win at everything. That's just his personality. So I'm fortunate for that, and it was part of the reason why I took the jump to come to College Park, was I knew that he would invest in wrestling, and he would invest in Olympic sports and non-revenue sports, and give us the ability to change the culture and to compete for championships.
I appreciate the shout out of the entire athletic department. That was pretty awesome. It's great. It's great to see from you, from the program, and obviously for the entire university as well. So one more for you, Coach, before I let you go. And I appreciate your time as always. So looking ahead to the Big Ten tournament this weekend up in Ann Arbor, some coaches like to tell me, at least I've heard of who I've talked to, they say, you know what, sometimes the Big Ten tournament might be a little bit more difficult than the NCAA tournament because the conference, as you mentioned at the top of our interview, is just top to bottom, just stacked, and you could have almost the entire weight class make NCAAs in 2 weeks out in Tulsa. So 3 NCAA qualifiers last year. What do you have to do for your guys this weekend to maybe even double that number, or have a good amount of guys head out to Tulsa in 2 weeks?
Yeah, I don't think whoever told you that's probably too far off, especially at some weight classes. We're preceding the Big Ten tournament last Friday. I think heavyweight 1 through 4 was 1 through 4 in the country. You look at 157, all 14 guys have been in the coaches rank. I think 13 of the 14 guys are now.
Mm-hmm.
It's, you go on and on. You get right. I think 84 last year got all 14 guys to Tulsa. So I don't know if we need to do anything different. Actually, we try not to, right? We try to create routine. We try to create repetition, and we try to create an environment where we do certain things at certain times. We eat certain things at certain times. We talk about certain things at certain times. And that lets our kids know, and their minds and their bodies know that, hey, it's go time. And as important as these last 2 weekends are, it's just another tournament. And that's not coach speak, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you have to have that mentality that, yeah, it's the Big Tens and it's the NCAAs, and this is what ultimately we train for. But if you treat it different, if you make it different, then it becomes something it's not. And you don't, at least I don't want that for our kids. I want our kids to go out and enjoy it. I want our kids to go out and have fun with it. I want our kids to go out and look at the moment and be like, this is why I came to Maryland. This is why I signed up to wrestle in the Big Ten. This is why I came to wrestle for Clemson and Company, was to have opportunities to test myself and compete in the best arenas and against the best programs and against the best kids and coaches in the world, right? You look at NCAA wrestling and then what those guys do in the world stage and what our counterparts are involved in from a USA wrestling standpoint. I mean, it's, we're all over the place, right? I was in Bulgaria this summer, and people are in Russia, and guys are over in wherever, right? At whatever championship it is. And that's just part of what these kids do. So I hope that they just treat it like it's another chance to test myself, and it's another chance to see where I'm at. It's another chance to go out and show everybody all the work I've done. And I think when we take that mentality, good things happen more times than not. I get a little fearful when people are like, "Oh man, Big Tens, it's such an important weekend." I'm like, "Oh, here we go." Of course it is. Of course it is. But how we feel about that and how we respond to that, and how we kind of run through those thoughts, I think it can be really good, and I think it can hinder you. And hopefully, we've done a good job as a staff of talking our kids through that and helping them understand where they're at and what this moment is, and they go out and enjoy it and perform. And if they don't, we'll get back to the drawing board. And if they do, there'll still be more work to do. It's something we talk about all the time. That if you win the nationals, you're not the best guy in the world. There's like 10 dudes from Russia that can probably like stomp you, right? And then if you go 0-2 at the Big Tens, you're not the worst guy in the country. There's such a spectrum and scope of where we're at in our genesis or development, that you just got to understand, no matter where you're at, there's always more work to do. There's always more that can be done. There's always something to improve on. And if you look at enjoying the process and enjoying the moment and being a kid and having fun, you're going to be closer to winning championships than you are to going 0-2. So we try to talk to our guys about that a lot, and hopefully it's sunk in, and hopefully they're primed up and ready to go. I feel like our staff's done a phenomenal job all year of guiding this young group and helping this young group and putting this young group in position to have success. I hope our kids show that on Saturday and Sunday, and if they don't, then we have more work to do. And if they do, we'll get those guys ready for the next couple weekends or 2 weekends later, and then there'll be more work to do. So I try to take peace in that, and I know our staff does, and hopefully our kids start to build confidence from that too, and they just enjoy it because they're kids and they should have fun. And I think sometimes that's lost in college athletics, and especially sometimes in wrestling, because it's so damn hard and it's so intimate and it's so personal. But at the end of the day, they're kids playing a game, and they should go have fun doing that. And I'm excited to watch them this weekend, and thankful to be a part of it.
Wise words from you, Coach. Looking forward to seeing what you guys can do in Ann Arbor this weekend. I'll see you out there. Of course, appreciate the time. As always, head coach Alex Clemson of Maryland Wrestling joining me here on On3 Sports. Coach, appreciate it as always. Good luck this weekend once again in Ann Arbor.
Thank you. My pleasure. Appreciate you guys having me on.